Consider for a moment if it is likely that a bank or investor would fund such activities.
We know that Lundberg has what he calls on his website a retainer, i.e. something is funding him. Mm-hmm. And so let's just consider that you went to someone with a business proposition and you said, right, well, I've got this great idea of making patterns in the crop. It's a great business idea. I want some funding. I want to start a website telling people how to do it. And by the way, we are breaking the law every time we do it.
Yes, it's yeah.
So you go to some person, let's say one of these venture capitalists, something like that. We've got this great idea. We go out, we break the law, we break into farmers' fields, we flatten the crop. We've got these great designs. Can you give us a retainer to allow us to continue with our ideas? Do you think that you would get a private investor that would fund such an organisation?
I wouldn't have thought so. And I can't see any high street bank manager giving the green light either and say, here's a few £1,000, lads, and get started. Yeah.
I decided to check out Lundberg's residence, which is an apartment in London. I decided to run some land registry checks on the apartment, and I came up with some bizarre findings. The block where Lundberg lives, built in 1995, contains about 40 apartments. Lundberg's apartment does not appear on the land registry database. I purchased a copy of the deeds, and the land it is registered under is not the land on which it was built. There is no record of it ever being bought or sold since it was built. I telephoned the land registry to ask why this was. They said that it must never have been sold since it was built. There are 3 more properties neighbouring Lundberg's that have this exact same anomaly. I telephoned the housing association who were listed as the owner of these properties and asked if they had any apartments to rent in that block. They said they have 4 and said that the tenants in those properties were, quote, a different type of tenant to our normal tenant. I asked what they meant by this, and she said the rent was not paid by the tenants, they were either leased or being paid for by the council. I checked out the identities of the residents of the other 3 properties, and judging by what they do for a living, I would not expect them to be entitled to housing benefit. Therefore, the rents are not being paid for by the council. Could it be I have uncovered 3 more people who are associated with the same organisation? You can find interviews featuring John Lundberg on the internet in which he regularly states the following. Unlike most other artists, our work relies on the fact that the work we create needs to be authorless to function properly. This is the polar opposite to how we usually think about art. We call works by their author. It's a Warhol, a Dali, a Picasso. But for our work to function properly, we need to totally remove ourselves from the equation. Crop circles gain their power from the gap in knowledge about their author. As soon as you claim authorship of a crop circle, you drain it from the very thing that gives it its power, its mystery, and it just becomes a mere specimen, just flattened crop. Now this all sounds very nice, but to me it is an obvious tactic which has been adopted as a means to confuse the public into not knowing which circles are genuine and which ones are man-made. MI5 take great care in ensuring secrecy is maintained when recruiting their personnel. Therefore, it is not possible to obtain any concrete proof of who their agents are. I would argue that the amount of circumstantial evidence I have just presented is very compelling. In carrying out this work, I believe I now have the identities of 7 MI5 agents operating in various professions, predominantly the media, one of whom is a household name. For my own personal safety, this information has been shared with a number of trusted individuals who are holding the information at this time.
Government realised how important these crop circles were, and therefore they needed somebody they could rely on to try and rubbish the phenomenon.
Yeah, it's probably sort of conscripted.
Yeah.
Something had to be done, I think, to put the thumb down on this thing and nip it in the bud, as you might say, before it got out of hand.
And one way of nipping it in the bud is to muddy the waters.
Yes,
definitely, and control the release of information.
And all propaganda techniques and things.
Okay. Why would our government that we elect not want us to know the truth about the real crop circles and use our own taxpayers' money to sponsor people to basically fool ourselves. What is it that we can't handle? What's going on here? What's the reason why people are diverting and confusing the issue, or the government is?
The reason is very simple. We are not alone, and we never have been alone.
Many people have tried to explain why these entities are producing these circles in the ground. There are lots of different theories, I guess. Do you have you developed a theory on that, Roy, at all?
Well, I still think to some extent they're playing games with us.
Right.
Because they're teasing us.
Whatever the true cause of the genuine crop circles, if millions of pounds of taxpayers' money is being used to sponsor the psychological manipulation of honest people, then this is a crime on the scale of Watergate. Surely we deserve better. It's my belief that MI5's role goes much further than sponsoring crop circles. I suspect they have agents in most, if not all, mainstream media organisations, being used to put spin on the truth and put into people's minds what they want people to believe. This leads me to my final question. Who is really controlling the intelligence agencies? I have my own theory on this, but I will leave you to decide.